Hey guys! So today I'm continuing on with my Consumerism series. This is part 2, and today we're going to discuss the exploitation of people as a result of consumerism and global capitalism.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Before I forget, I really want to shout out a privileged vegan's recent video titled Why Veganism Must Be Anti-Capitalist Now. She did a really good job of explaining the links and how, veganism and capitalism connect. So make sure you go check that out. I'll leave the link in the description box below. She's awesome. Okay, so like I said, this is part 2 in my series. If you haven't watched part 1, go check it out. I'll leave the link up here and in the description box below. But to just briefly recap what I said in that video, I basically addressed the role of consumerism in today's Western society. I think consumerism can best be summed up as this perpetual cycle of wanting something, acquiring it, feeling a short-lived sense of satisfaction, only to be left wanting again shortly after purchase. This model of living, I guess we could call it, tells us that we must acquire more and more stuff at ever-increasing rates in order to achieve happiness and fulfillment, and in order to be accepted in today's society. And this ideology was purposefully crafted and designed to fuel corporate capitalism, mass consumption, and further increase inequality. So today I wanted to sort of build upon that and discuss the role that Western consumerism has played in shaping the lives of those people living in more developing, disadvantaged countries. The people we never really think about or pay much attention to. So I recently watched a documentary called The True Cost. It's on Netflix and I would highly recommend it. It really highlights the negative impact of consumerism, globalization, and structural oppression. It centers on this era we live in of fast fashion or disposable fashion, which is the ability to produce trendy designer clothing and accessories to mass populations quickly and for cheap prices. This may seem like a good thing for consumers, but the cost has been extremely high. Besides contributing to pollution and environmental degradation, this type of fashion continues to contribute to the exploitation and abuse of workers all over the world, most profoundly in developing countries. Fast fashion is just one industry and one example, albeit a huge one, but the exploitation of workers exists in the supply chains of food, electronics, and so many other industries. So I just wanted to sort of discuss how some of this works and the implications of our consumption and the impact it has on others. So basically we have these developed Western countries like the United States and Canada excessively consuming cheap products at an extraordinary rate. The average US person consumes twice as much as 50 years ago. And if we take a look at clothing alone, we purchase 80 billion new pieces of clothing each year, which is 400% more than we bought just 2 decades ago. I mean, that's a huge increase. And we're able to do this because of various forms of exploitation, both worker exploitation along with natural resource exploitation. These developed countries, I'm just going to use the United States as my example, outsources production to poor countries because rules and regulations are much less strict there, which basically means these countries like China and Bangladesh are not required to pay their workers living wages. They're not required to give benefits or even provide safe working conditions. In 2013, a perfect example, a garment factory in Bangladesh collapsed, leaving 1,100 people dead and 2,500 people injured. The building's owners were warned to stay out of the building after cracks were discovered in the structure, but they ignored it and ordered their workers to continue working. And these are the types of working conditions these people have to endure all over the world. And this mistreatment is what allows the US to produce consumer goods at much lower costs than if they were to keep production in our own country. And so we have these underdeveloped, disadvantaged countries in constant competition with one another, trying to produce more for less for these developed countries, which obviously ends up affecting the workers. And say, for instance, China decides that it wants to pay its workers a living wage and give benefits. This means they're going to have to then charge the United States more. Well, what do you think the US is going to do? They're going to say screw you and take its business elsewhere, like Southeast Asia or wherever else labor is super cheap. So there's no incentive for these poor countries to do this. They'll lose business and people will be out of work. It's a really shitty system where the rich developed countries take full advantage of poorer countries, and we say it's okay. We actually say we are doing them a favor because we are bringing jobs to these countries. We say otherwise they'd be working in shittier conditions, which may be true, but it doesn't make this system okay. This system is still messed up beyond belief. I've said this before and I'll say it again. No one should have to choose between healthcare and food. No one should have to wonder where they're going to sleep at night. And just to give you an idea of the injustice, in Bangladesh, garment workers are often paid less than $3 a day. So another way we affect poorer nations and disadvantaged people is through natural resource exploitation. Natural resource exploitation basically just means using natural resources to achieve economic growth. So the US thinks it's okay to not only use all of the natural resources in our country, but to travel to other countries and to exploit all of their natural resources as well. If you haven't watched The Story of Stuff, that video does a really good job at explaining all this. I'll leave the link in the description below. So the United States, goes to other countries, cuts down their forests, extracts their fossil fuels, basically uses up all of their natural resources, leaving them with a whole list of issues, including water pollution, desertification, soil erosion, etc., and often end up making these places uninhabitable for the people living there. So these people end up needing to migrate to new locations, sometimes places like the United States, looking for work, and we tell them to get out. Or we give them a shitty paying, exploitative job in a factory working crazy long hours when we're the ones that did this to them. We drove them out of their habitats, which sustained them for decades because basically we're greedy assholes. And then we mock and berate them for having the nerve to invade our space, come on our territory. So something else I was thinking about is this mindset that as long as I donate my used items, I can continue to consume as much as I want. But consider this, only 10% of donated items actually end up being sold. So what do they do with the other 90% of the stuff? Well, they ship it off to places like Haiti, sell it dirt cheap, which serves to put a ton of workers there out of work because they can't compete with the prices of these donated items. Therefore, their economy starts to fail, and it's our fault. It's the fault of these developed countries like the United States. We think we know what's best for these people, so we decide Haiti, for example, needs our help. So we send them a bunch of stuff, but then what about the people there with their own companies trying to sell their own stuff, their own products? We come in and they can't compete. The same goes for food aid programs. So during times of emergency, like say a natural disaster hits Haiti, we'll just stick with Haiti. Food aid programs are then, absolutely necessary, absolutely help. But what about during non-emergency times? Dumping food onto poorer nations completely undercuts local farmers. They can't compete with these free or subsidized foods coming in, so they're forced out of their jobs and driven into poverty. These Haitians, along with many other countries that we do this to, they want to be self-sufficient. They don't want to be dependent on other countries for everything. They want to participate in the market. We act like we're these saviors that are going to come in and rescue people and provide them with everything they need, but that's not helping them. It's creating an unnecessary dependence when they are perfectly capable of doing the work themselves. Okay, so there's plenty of other ways that we exploit workers. I didn't get a chance to talk about everything. I'm thinking of doing another video on IMF, the World Bank, how these things affect poorer nations. So I might do like a whole separate video on that topic. But alright, that's it for this video. My next video in this series, I think I'm going to discuss minimalism and consumerism. And then after that, I'll be providing information and resources for consuming ethically and mindfully. Maybe do one sort of talking about some real world solutions to these issues that we as individuals can possibly implement, and possibly systemic solutions. Not that I have all the answers by any means. I'm still like learning about all of this stuff. I'm by no means an expert, but, you know, we'll discuss that later on. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments, and share if you'd like, and subscribe. So thanks so much for watching, guys.